V105.5 may or may not promote your personal lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practices. These shows are for entertainment purposes only.
Oh. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning.
Local, national, and the world. Here's Bishop Victor L. Powell, Bishop Jimmy Sneed, and Pastor Lorenzo L. Hurd with topics that matter.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the staff or management of WZBN Praise 105.5 FM.
Well, hello.
Well, hello, Albany, Georgia.
Albany, GA, and the surrounding counties.
Yes.
Sylvester, Terrell County, and I got to run to Camilla.
Mitchell County, yes,
Mitchell
sir.
County, got it.
And to all our mayors and all our
the Mormon girls, all those.
Yes.
Oh, around that.
And to all
what's
of
that
our,
big city they in? What's that? What night is? What's that big city called?
Bakerton, Georgia.
Bakerton, Georgia.
And want to thank Pastor Knight because he's the connection man
with us, with the Dr. Rowland.
Dr. Rowland. So we thank
bless God for Knight.
For Brother Knight.
And we wish and pray good speed for Bishop Sneed, who is out today. Be back next Sunday.
Yes, sir. To him and his wife.
Happy Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.
Happy all the mothers.
All the mothers
everywhere.
Listen.
So let me give a shout. I got to give it to my mother, Laverne.
Give it up. Give it up.
Carter.
Give it up. Give
Happy
it up.
Mother's Day, Mom.
Happy Mother's Day, Mary Odom, Mama. I did a dedication to her today.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Ended up talking a little bit about fathers too, and mixed it up. I don't know.
Mama said, "Don't you bring that in
when you're talking about me." And so I ended up mixing it up a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, I want to
good.
honor my mom and let her know how much I love her today.
All our mothers, even many of them in our congregation.
Oh my God!
And other congregations who make such a difference, and really are the people who help shape the world.
Shape the world. The mama is the first voice you ever hear.
First voice.
And there's something to all the single mothers. I want to say to all the single mothers who often don't have the help that many times people who are co-parenting together. So we'll honor all of our single parents, all the grandmothers who are raising their grandchildren.
Mothers all over again. Mothers all over.
Mothers.
All
double. Yes. So all the mothers and all the mothers out there who do have the help of the fathers, we honor all of our mothers. Yeah. All of our mothers.
And today we have our special guest again.
Dr. Rowland.
Dr. Lane Rowland. How
you doing? How you doing, Doctor?
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing on a beautiful Sunday morning, Mother's Day, and wishing everybody in Albany, Georgia, good health and Godspeed.
Yes,
absolutely.
Sir. Yes,
absolutely.
Sir. You look a little different today. What's going on? What you do?
This is my military version.
Okay. Is it drill weekend?
No, it's just it's time to just clean up. You know.
Oh, okay.
I can only go for so long, and this is how I normally look. I get my hair cut 3 times a week, shave 3 times a week. It's just part of my nature.
Oh,
so.
Okay. Is that a part of your regiment for staying virus free?
Yes, it is. You know,
talk to us a little bit about that. What do you do? Talk to us a little
about that. Well, you know, you make sure that you have whoever is cutting your hair, and you have a great deal of confidence in them, and you know that they understand biosecurity protocols. So the guy that cuts my hair here in Las Vegas, you know, he knows it. He has the gloves, has the air filtration unit, has you know, the alcohol, everything just perfect and stuff, and you know, people keeping a minimum distance. And so, you know, I have quite confidence in him, and he trusts me, and so I'm back on track to getting my hair cut 3 times a week like I always do.
Wow.
Oh wow. Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. Great. Well,
and so let me ask you this: since we're talking as far as people like the barbers and beauty shop owners, let's we'll, if you don't mind, since we started off, you're looking so clean and handsome, and so well shaven. So let's, even with barbers and beauticians, what are some things that they need to do, or some, I don't know, even maybe some products that, because if anyone better get it right for the Black community, we better get it right with barbers, beauticians, people who are in our heads and in our face, because all of their clientele is African American.
Right. Mhm.
And so what are some things that they may need to do, or is it certain kind of products they ought to have? I mean, give me a little idea on that.
Okay, and let's get started then. And
Yeah.
first of what I want to just tell everybody that I've been put on the National COVID-19 Task Force
Okay.
for the National Black Caucus. That was happened last Tuesday. So I'm the medical advisor for our Congress people. And let's get back into it about how you get back into bringing businesses back. For our individual people, the most important thing is knowing your client and your entrance way. How do people get into the hair salon, the barbershops? One, you got to make sure that the individuals that come in there are coming there with masks. If they have to have an appointment, they need to make sure they stay in the car, so you're not concentrating people in the front entrance. You should automatically have a hand desanitizer available for the public. They go there, they wipe their hands and stuff. And then you need to look at the barbers that are trying, and the hair stylists are trying to get back in business again. They need to make sure that they're wearing a mask. They need to make sure they have gloves, switch gloves off in between each customer. They need to make sure that they have the disinfectant to make sure they're spraying down after each customer goes through the as a client and stuff. Making sure, one of the things I noticed today is that a lot of the barbershops seem like they have ceiling fans. Well, ceiling fans can be very dangerous because that can spread the virus throughout the whole building. That's why it's important for each individual saloon or hairstylist that is trying to get back online, they must have an air filtration unit in their building to circulate the air that can kill coronavirus, influenza, and other pathogens that are airborne. That's a given. They need to make sure that if individuals goes into their bathroom, that these individuals know to make sure they wash their hands, because some of the new information I want to give you folks today was that, like I've said before, 25 to 35% all the transmission of coronavirus is caused by feces. Let me repeat that again. 25 to 35% of all transmission of COVID-19 is through feces, and the other 75% is through aerosol. So when you go to the barbershop and people come in there and they use the bathroom, they need to make sure the customers are washing their hands when they come back out of the bathroom, and the individual barbers and hairstylists have to directly visualize these people decontaminating their hands after they come out of the bath. So they go in the bathroom, whatever the case is, they come out, the barber needs to tell there's a spray bottle over there, you need to spray your hands down. And then the last thing that's important, what I noticed today, was that making sure that when that individual gives them the credit card, that credit card is disinfected after each. Also, if people get money, to make sure that the money is being, disinfected too, because like I said, money, credit cards, and can be a vector of diseases. And 25 to 35% of all transmission of COVID-19 worldwide is caused by feces.
Feces. And so that's people who've gone to the restroom and have not properly cleaned their hands.
Absolutely. And expand upon that is that you can imagine a commercial bathroom. You go in there and people flush the bathroom, the toilet. Well, that spray gets sprayed all over the bathroom, on the floor. In fact, the COVID-19 becomes aerolized and become airborne from the bathroom. Even in your individual house, you need to make sure that you're using proper biosecurity to sterilize your bathroom. And if you have a lid, you need to make sure that lid is shut down after somebody uses the bathroom. They're making sure that you disinfect that bathroom every day, because that is a source of infection. That is fact, 150%.
Wow.
Wow. Doc, let me ask you this. Since we're talking about basically migration back into some level of normalcy, and we know that that's subjective when you say normalcy. So when you talk about going back and integrating back into normalcy, back to integrating with the public, how, based upon what are the 3 or 4 major things that we should be telling our sphere of influence how to do that, since businesses have to open back up, since people have to go back to work. Now this week, this is the first full week where people have been back physically out of their homes in Albany, back on their jobs this week. A lot more people will be going back to work. By the 1st of June, we might have an 80-90% workforce back to migrating. What should be happening when Joe Blow goes from home and he or she has not been out in 45 days? What should be their 4 or 5 major protocols from an individual perspective migrating back into the public?
Well, if I'm leaving my house and I'm gonna put myself in a situation, I haven't been out in 45 days, and the first thing they need to realize is they have to have situational awareness. They need to know what environment are they going into, because whatever environment you're going into is going to dictate your security. I.e., I'm going to go to Walmart. Well, I know Walmart has a high concentration of people. I'm going to definitely have my mask 150%. 2, I'm going to have some gloves 150%. 3, I'm going to definitely have some type of surface disinfectant. That's just the bottom line on that one. And then 4 is just making sure whenever you're in contact with anything, you need to make sure that you're sterilizing your hands. If you're wearing gloves, you need to dispose of the gloves, because the gloves themselves sometimes you can become complacent. You think they got protection, but your gloves can be very, very contaminated too. So they need to disregard or throw the gloves away when they get done with that. And then, wearing your mask, again, in a proper situation. You get in your car and you're by yourself, you don't need a mask. If you're in a park and, there's less density, there's not a lot of people, you don't need a mask. But if you go into an area that's high concentrated, and we know that this pandemic is only at the beginning, really at the top of the slope in some places, there's infections out there. So you have to protect yourself on that. And then when you come back from these individual places, making sure that you take your shoes off at the front of your door in your house. Do not wear your shoes in the house. It's because coronavirus is found on your shoes. So you can imagine coming from outside, you bring your shoes in the house, you walk to the house, you can infect yourself. Maybe your grandchild is playing on the floor, they can get contact with coronavirus. And same thing, if you have pets or dogs and your dog goes out to the bathroom, they come back into your place of home, you need to make sure you're cleaning the dog's feet too, because the dog's feet can be transmitters of COVID-19. And there are different stuff out there that you can use that are, what I call, doesn't cause any problems on sterilizing dogs or anything like that.
Well, now we had text earlier, and you were talking about what this new issue that we see with children, what Kawasaki syndrome?
Yeah, Kawasaki syndrome.
Kawasaki. Excuse me. Yeah, Kawasaki. So to give me a little understanding of that and what's happening with children now coming with a kind of COVID virus.
Let's get into really 3 new information that's occurred over the last week. And this is why with COVID-19, things are moving so fast. The science is moving so fast. Now, COVID-19 is 40 different mutations. It is 40 as of last week. 25 to 35% of the infections are caused by fecal matter, feces, contamination, bathroom, people not washing their hands, sewage, all that. And the third thing that we talked about before in the past is that now we have a disease now called Kawasaki disease. And why is that important? Because this disease is is a major inflammatory disease that are killing children. 9-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 12 years old, 93 cases in New York, cases worldwide, and you have 9-year-old kids having coronary heart attacks and dying or having strokes. And this is the consequences of the COVID-19 infection. What happens is the individual gets infected, they don't know about it, they're asymptomatic, and they have antibodies in their system. Then all of a sudden, 3 weeks after the infection's gone, the body kind of gives what we call a massive inflammatory systemic manifestation throughout the whole body. So all the medium arterial system in the body is infected. So kids have, problems with their brain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the most important thing is that these kids are having heart attacks and dying. And so we already know that we have healthcare disparities for Black people, but Black people need to understand that there's another syndrome that they have to protect their kids, because that's what my responsibility as to being on the COVID-19 healthcare task force is to make sure that our people understand what's going on. And so our people need to be looking to your children if they get a fever for 5 days and they're feeling bad and they got a rash and their eyes are red and their tongue is red and they have a rash on their body. You need to get your child into the healthcare system ASAP. If not, your kid can have a heart attack and die.
Wow. Because now we're hearing this about, and we're seeing more of it about white kids, but I'm understanding, but there are Black kids who are dying and having these.
Yeah. 12-year-old kids are having heart attacks and dying. And if you look at CNN and Fox, and once again, and I don't want to be political. You know, I can give you the Dr. Rowling version. I can give you the Mickey Mouse version. And I'm gonna keep it real and stuff. But the only kids they're showing on television are the white kids dying. That's why it's important. So we need to make sure that the Black folks out there understand there's a syndrome called Kawasaki syndrome that Black kids can get to. Our children, my grandchildren, your grandchildren, your 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old can get infected and they can die. And then what's going to happen is that, you know, we already have we're already taking the brunt of the disease. We don't want to be in the back of the bus when our children start dying.
And it's concerning for me because on my way to the station today, I passed by a house that obviously was having a birthday party, and probably 40, 50 kids, at least 30, 40, 50 kids or so, another 10 adults, not one person with a mask on. And that is the kind of stuff that makes me uncomfortable about going back to congregational settings, because you have people who are in these environments where they're not using any kind of protocol. They're not using masks. They're not washing their hands. They're not sterilizing their hands. And then that same crowd, if you're not careful, will come to your church. And so for me, it's concerning. For what you know about Albany area, and for all that you know about these viruses, for pastors and churches, when are they suggesting would be a reasonable time to consider maybe going back, but definitely not as of when, if that makes any sense to you?
I completely understand. And I had a conference call on Thursday on this exact issue about that, because we have to get back to some type of normalcy. That's just reality. But we're not going to back at what it was 2 months ago or 6 months ago. That ball game is over with. We have a new social normalcy that we have to deal with in this reality of this pandemic. So you need to think about it on this terms, is that this disease, this pandemic is going to go on for 3 years minimum. We're going to have 3 phases. So what I'm telling the individual churches is that you have your congregation. You want to worship. I have no problem with people worshiping if they understand the biosecurity programs for your individual parish, i.e., everybody comes to church. You take a temperature before they get in there. That's simple to do. You have a full body decontamination unit. People go in there. You have your air filtration unit. People have their N95 mask so they can sit down. You can give your sermon from the above, making sure that people understand that. If they go to the bathroom, making sure you have the best antiseptic stuff in there for your hands, like what we talked about before, Hibiclens, and you do that type of environment, you're going to be fine. But the people are going to have to understand the rules, and what you guys are going to have to do is have some type of community forum where you bring everybody into a whatever it is, to school or whatever, and you tell individual people, hey, folks, this stuff is real. You need to educate your kids, about what's happening. When I was a kid, if I disobeyed my grandmother, she took me and got a switch.
Right.
And she did Zorro on me. And so if you do that, you can get back to some normalcy if you protect yourself, and that you're not going to have a problem. And that, you don't need to, you need to take the disease seriously, but you can also function in this environment, and that's the bottom line on that one. Don't shaking people's hands. You don't be shaking people's hands in the church. That's done. That's not going to happen anymore. Right. If somebody's coughing, you want them out of there. then you take the temperature of people coming into the establishment. You do these baseline protocols, you can have a great sermon. And I think it's good to have this because it makes people really get closer to God, and also allows you to talk to the people. And this is great for their mental health too.
So Doc, you're suggesting that that as people are entering into the door, we take their quick temp, boom, and then let them sit.
Well, you said the
Full body decontamination units. What I've been making recommendations for mayors and cities and airports and hotels and all that stuff, especially have one interest. So you can imagine we have access to what we call full body decon units that we use in the military, where you got that at your door. You can people go through that. It takes 3 seconds to decontaminate somebody from the head to toe, and no complication. The eyes or the breathing, their clothes, nothing. Shoes, the bottom of the shoes are decontaminated. And once you're done with your serum, you just take this and you put it away in your storage place and you bring it out. High-tech stuff.
Okay. So now, is this some like a mist that you walk through? Is it like some kind of a light or what?
Yeah, it's a mist. Just like when you go to Disneyland or you go to Universal Studios and you're standing there in the summertime, like we were down there now, you know how you get under there and this they got the water mist coming down to kind of cool you off. It's
Right.
the same concept, but it's a lot more finer than that. It only takes 3 seconds to be decontaminated from head to toe. And my grandchildren are not scared of the machine. That's what the most important thing is. It's kids friendly and it does its job. And so when you can imagine going to a football stadium and you see our full body decontamination units there, everybody that goes into that stadium has to go through our full body decon. You come back out, they go through the full body decon, and it gives people a sense of pride, a psychological, and also we're decreasing the infection rate as best we can. Now, individual is sick and they already got the disease in them, they're asymptomatic. We can't control that, but we control the other 98%. That's a fact.
So Dr. Rowland,
Yeah.
once the person goes through the decon unit, are we still suggesting social distancing once they're in the worship atmosphere, or does that make them safe to sit next to other people?
I would say, that's a combination of both. One is that people are safe, they're decon, but people don't need to be elbow to elbow. You might want to have some spacing, because let's be real, 6 feet of distancing doesn't really mean anything in this disease. I'm gonna keep it real, because if I cough or you cough, it's gonna go farther than 60 feet. It's gonna go farther than 6 feet.
Right.
If you have an air conditioner or fan in your building, it's gonna be spread everywhere. Some of the biggest transmission is aerolized coronavirus in the air conditioner units. That's a fact. So that's why you would, for example, when I was talking to the churches in Chicago, what their plan is to do is put the air filtration units in each of the corners, the front and the back, which all the air will circulate, and you have a 100% kill rate of coronavirus and influenza. In fact, we even have hospital grade air filtration units now that we are using in the hospitals. We have them in the OR. We have them in patients' wards. Mm-hmm. So this is high-tech stuff, and it's unbelievable, because this is what the people do not understand, is that there's technology out there that we use in our biolabs in our hospital to kill organisms that are airborne.
Okay. And you're saying, and to finish your bishop's question, and once you're in, you're saying you ought to wear your mask. And
yeah, people get
also. No?
Yeah, people should still wear their mask. They don't have to wear gloves.
Okay.
They don't have to wear gloves. They wear their mask. They sit down and have space. You don't be on top of people. Right. You have your air filtration units going. Hey, you can go ahead and preach, no problem.
Oh man.
Because at the end of the day, this is some of the basic protection security protocols that people are going to have. For example, your kids go back to school. The kids are going to go through this decontamination unit. They get into the school, depending on what the density is, the kids will wear their mask. They have proper hygiene on how to wash their hands, because we know that 25 to 35% of the cases of COVID-19 It's passed through feces. You have your air filtration unit in there, and you're good to go. But you have to have a policy and procedures on that, because I can tell you right now, 99.9% of the business I've talked to, these are multi-billion-dollar corporations. They don't have policies and procedures. So you guys need to have a policy procedure. One, you come to church, you do this: A, B, C, D, E. That's how you do it.
Right. Okay.
Wow, this is
and no
interesting.
congregation really should start gathering until they've established these protocols. That's what you're believing, correct?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I asked G.A. Hardaway, Chairman Hardaway of the COVID-19 healthcare task force that I was put on, why'd you guys come to me? I'm a nobody. And he says, Dr. Rowland, we've seen your stuff, the stuff you do in the jungles, your experience in Germany, et cetera, the military. We have confidence in you. And I said, hey, Chairman Hardaway, you got my 6. He says, I got your 6, and I got your 6 with some juice. And I said, okay, I'm going to do what I need to do. So my job is to give you guys the best information on the planet so you guys and we can survive and have a future. But we have to understand that this COVID-19 is no joke. Right. It's mutated to 40 different mutations, has a mutation on a gene called D614G. That gene point mutation has made this thing more infectious. Every week it's changing. Every week it's changing. Wow. This is part of the genetic makeup of an RNA virus. So, but we can't change the virus. The virus is going to do what it's going to do. But we can protect our loved ones. We can protect ourselves. We can function if we have the information. Like we talked about this disease, not a disease, it's part of it, called Kawasaki, which is a part of the spectrum of somebody that gets COVID-19 and 2 or 3 weeks later, they have a full-blown heart attack in a 9-year-old kid. So they go to your hospital in Albany, Georgia, but the parents need to say, I think my kid has Kawasaki. And that's going to alert that doctor if he doesn't know about it already.
Wow. So, Doc, when you talk about mutation, there's a myth. There's some different sayings out there about once you have tested positive with the virus and you get healed, you get well, you're back integrated, you're doing good, can you catch it again? Can you deal with some of the truths and the myths, the lies out there about that particular thing?
I'm sorry, folks. I'm gonna tell. I've said this on social media, etc. I don't believe in myths. I don't believe in conspiracy theories. I believe in science and facts. And the fact is that there are 40 different mutations of COVID-19. So let me give you an example. You get COVID-19 strain number 22, and you recover. That does not confer you to immunity, because we've had patients that have been affected and be reinfected, because then you might get infected with COVID-9, which is a completely different strain, and your body has not recognized that, and so you're going to have an infection too. Are there people that will have immunity for it? Yes, absolutely. But do not take it where, I've had COVID-19 and I can go and run around and go into a nursing home and get 100% infections rate. I'm good. No, you're not. You're going to still practice good social behaviors because you can be reinfected because this virus is mutating all the time.
Oh, thank you for that. Yes.
I had a young lady who texted me, and she bought some N95 masks, but she had already purchased some 100 masks. She wanted to know, are the 100s, are they of any value as far as safety? Do she need to discard them? Can they still be of value?
I think any mask in this day and age has a value. And what does that mean? That value is that mask is a barrier for you from the internal and external environment, i.e., you're infected. You cough into your mask, you're going to decrease the virus particles getting out. Somebody's out there in Walmart and people are, it's airborne, you have a protection. So any mask that's on your face is fantastic because that gives you some protection and stuff. That's just the bottom line on that.
Okay. Okay.
Very
Good.
good. Yeah.
Good. Well, and let me say this while we're talking to Doc, because there's so many things that attack our community. And so even as we look at a Glenn County for a moment, and you're dealing with an Ahmaud Arbery who gets killed, who's jogging, who's killed. Um, I want to say that there's so many things that are against us. Don't play with something that could wipe you out, because there's so many things that seemingly are after our destiny. Uh, and so when I look at a young black boy, would have been 26, young man who would have been 26 a couple days ago, but life was snuffed from him. I want to say to all of our people now, when we start talking about marching, if you march but you don't vote, listen, you're part of the problem. If you march and you write Facebook posts, but you don't vote in every election, and then you don't commit to helping make sure that politicians are accountable and that we get good people in who represent us. Because in Brunswick, what we see are classic examples of people who do not care about our people. And so I'm saying we've got to do better with that. We got to tell people, listen, you help get Ahmaud where he is when you don't vote and when you don't get involved. And then with that same conviction, I believe that people who are irresponsible and will not wear a mask, who are irresponsible, who just got to get their nails done, and then go back in environments without having any kind of protocols to sanitize your hands, to sanitize yourself, to make sure that you're not bringing something back to your community, bringing something back to your family, or bringing something back to yourself. You're negligent. And all of our people have got to make a commitment now,
Yes,
to do a better job of taking care of each other. I owe you, if I'm going to be around you, I owe you to be fair with you and to not be taking unnecessary risk and exposing you and exposing other people. And so that has been my challenge, even with when will I open up and go back to a congregational setting. Mine is not based upon some governor or a number 45 or some mayor or some county chairman. I'm going to get the best information I can get, and then I'm going to look at how do I re-enter, and our people re-enter the sanctuary to make sure that in the midst of worshiping God, that we are accountable and that we protect each other. Now, I'm also saying to folk who want to have a 50 people birthday party with nobody with mask on, listen, y'all stay home. You stay, because you'll mess around and kill grandmama who come to church when you just gonna come Mother's Day, come Easter, Christmas. You stay home and you'll crowd that don't want to be responsible.
yes.
Yeah, but that's my conviction on that.
Because Dr. Rollins, I want you to address this, because one of the other myths that's out in particularly in our community, but I don't even know if it's just an African-American myth. I think it's a myth, period, that's adding to the death. You cannot tell whether someone is negative or positive. So address that for us. In other words, I can't look at somebody I love. Oh, I just love Punkin Wunkin. Oh, she my baby. I love, you know how love does. I love such and such. I love them. But let's keep it real. No matter how much love in this case now is maintaining safety. Love 2 months ago was affection, showing it, touching, hugging, boom. So Doc, address that I can't look at another human being to determine whether they have the virus or not. And that might help some folk stay safe. Maybe we might save lives with this particular perspective.
And I think you guys are doing what you're doing. You're saving lives every minute because you're informing people. You're putting the information in front of people's faces. The thing about viruses and what people need to be understand and recognize is that the reason why people have this nonchalant attitude, because you can't see it. It's inside you. It's like being a diabetic patient. If you don't see it, you don't recognize it. So no big deal. Not like some of the diseases I've dealt with in my career where people's jaws are sticking out of their mouths or their eyeballs have fell out their head because the disease has destroyed their face. That's recognizable. And so when people don't recognize or see it because it's invisible, it's not there. And so people need to be stressed on a regular basis, and it needs to be thrown in their face through your community churches, through your radio. Folks, this virus is out there. You know, hip hop radio, this virus can kill you. Just because you can't see it, it's not there. And like we always say, body bags are cheap. And young people can die from disease just like older people can. And now we have another syndrome where the babies are dying. Pediatric babies are dying from Kawasaki syndrome. So that's how you guys have to be proactive. And you got to keep people on top of people as we go through this pandemic. I mean, you should, you know, do what you guys could do because you guys are saving people's lives as we speak now. And then hell, if you want me to come back, I'll come back every 3 weeks and give people update until we get through the pandemic as your resident expert. And that's just the way it is. That's how we're going to do it. Because if most time people think they're invincible, people think they're immune. And then when you get the disease, then you know, all of a sudden you're praying to God, hoping for more time on the clock. And sometimes there's no more time on the clock. So you better do it right on the front end.
Absolutely. And then I think I have a greater sensitivity toward it, one, because of the number of parishioners that I've lost, but then with my own family that I've lost because of the virus, but then the number of friends from the faith community, from pastors that I preach for or who preached for us, that they're people that I knew and had great respect for.
Yes.
That have gone on before, that technically, if you had looked at them in January of 2020, you'd say, oh, they got another 20, 30, 40 years of living with ease. No signs of breaking and no signs of checking out unless something tragic happened. And so for me, it's important that we live through this and that we don't play with it. And so I want to say to mothers and to parents who have grown children in their houses, who want to go out and who want to do everything they always did without any protocols. I think we got to take this serious, especially if we want to live through it. And I want to live through it. I do not want this to take me out. It has taken out too many people that mean so much to me. I've had friends, close friends since fourth grade that have gone on. And I know my brother JD and I probably could have had an extra 20, 30, 35, even 40 years
Together.
Yes.
And
And so I'm saying to our community that we've got to take this serious. And so you don't send your children to those kind of events where people are all over there, none of them with masks, none of them with sanitizer. And so in case somebody didn't listen to the show last week, I know you talked about one of the cleaning things is Hibiclens.
Yes, and one of the things is this is Hibiclens as an antiseptic hand wash. This Hibiclens kills viruses, bacteria, and fungus. It lasts 24 hours. It is a great antiseptic hand wash that keeps the kids' hands clean. And now we know that 25 to 35% of cases of fecal is transmission through COVID-19. It is a must that your children that are going to daycare, schools, parties have to wash their hands. And we know children are notoriously not good at that. So that has to be part of the protocol in teaching these kids how to wash their hands, keeping the nails cut, and the kids need to explain this is what's going to happen if you don't, a possibility that you can get sick. And, you know, and that just becomes what people have to be proactive. And you said it earlier that there's information all over the board. CDC saying one thing, they come out with one thing, and then the Trump administrations tell them, no, we're going to table this, and everybody's confused. But we're going to keep it real and give people the real information so people can function based off of science and not through my feel good feeling or your good feeling. It's just reality. And I don't know why people have such a hard time and just getting real information and understanding it. You know, it's like we talked about the full body decontamination unit. A lot of people didn't know that existed. A company called Extreme Corp, or what we call extremecubes.com. They make this these full body decoms, you know, and it's military technology. They have an extreme surface disinfectant, military. You have Hibiclens, you have masks. You know, you need to spray your shoes down. Children come in the house playing in the yard. You know, they need to wipe down the children's shoes. You know, no shoes in the house. You know, when people go to your churches and stuff, if you're decontaminating the bottom of the feet, you're fine. But they have to understand this is significant. I was talking to my colleagues last night in Peru. We have 58 doctors in one of the hospitals I work in Peru. Guess how many are still working today? Only 8.
Wow.
Half of them are died and the other ones are sick. You can Google that. So this tells you the doctors are being decimated, nurses are being decimated. So that means that regular folks can be affected also.
Wow. Doc, if you could tell us all the different ways that the virus can be passed on from one human being to the next, because this week, does your research include a man who have the virus and then he's doing better and he starts to reconnect with his spouse? Can he give her the virus through their intimacy?
Through semen and
that kind of thing,
yeah,
those kind of things. We know through breath and all those other things, but what are other ways? And is there any validity to that research?
And Doc, before you answer that now, because I'm not getting much sugar now. So like, depending on your answer, I may be in sure enough trouble. But go ahead, Doc. Save my life. Save my life.
But you better give her some strawberry ice cream and tell her, you know, baby, I'm gonna show you the chocolate.
Doc, before you answer that, so we can give somebody some hope, Doc. So we can give somebody some hope. Before you answer that, if he has been positive and he uses protection, is that a safety net? So you can answer all of it at one time.
Okay, between the strawberry ice cream and chocolates, you know, house calls can be in effect.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But the ways we can get COVID-19 is one. We all know through respiration, people talking, aerosolized. The second way we know for a fact is that people have diarrhea, gastrointestinal disease, feces in your bathroom. And a third way is all through semen, sexual transmission. We have that in certain viruses, Ebola. We have it in certain diseases like Zika. You know, so this is highly likely, and this will be proven that this disease can be transmitted sexual, and especially if it's in the semen. And that just goes to show you that the virus has multiple capabilities of transmitting itself, not just through air, not just through diarrhea and feces, but also through semen. And then as we get further into research, we're probably going to be another mode of action or transmission of this disease.
Wow.
Okay.
But it is transmitted through semen for those who have it.
Yeah. And I would say, in my professional opinion, what I've seen and studied viruses for many, many years, absolutely. And so you need to protect yourself, because the next thing that's going to happen is that, for example, a man is tested positive. He has sex with his wife. He gets her pregnant. That virus gets transmitted to the wife, and what happens is that baby comes out with a genetic defect because that virus is affecting the first trimester. Or a female gets infected who's already pregnant, and she gets infected with the COVID-19 in her first trimester, and that can become a problem. That's what we saw with Zika 3 years ago. And I've written on the Journal of Nature Microbiology, me and my colleagues in Germany, we're Zika experts when it comes to pathogenic viruses. And that is what we have seen, that viruses can affect trimester women that are pregnant, can be transmitted from the mom to the baby. Semen transmission, Ebola can be transmitted through semen too. So do not take it lightly that this is not a possibility.
Now, how long does it remain there? And can a person use protection that would keep them from transferring it?
What we found in some of our Zika patients, the virus is in the semen or in the testicles for 6 months to a year.
And so if nothing else, because of our intimate life, we've got to be careful, because we could ultimately not only infect our significant other, but we could infect the newborn babies to come.
You know what? I would err on the caution of being extremely careful in this pandemic, and I would use some type of contraceptive in this thing, so you're not infecting that individual, or it can be vice versa. Maybe the female's infected and she gives it to you. Now, diseases are not one-way track sometimes. Sometimes they're on the highway going both directions. And we've seen that in lots of different diseases and stuff. So I think if we take our education and our experiences, I think everybody needs to be, understanding that you can be affected either way, female, male relationships, and that's just the way it is. So I would argue and fall on the sign of being cautious as we go through this pandemic. And like I said before, we haven't even got the second phase 2 number yet.
Right.
And so, Doc, you think there will be a second wave in America?
There's no think. This is fact. And when we do that pandemic, let me explain to you a pandemic again for our new audience. If we talk about the pandemic, Spanish pandemic from 1918, it went to 1920. It did not start in 1918. It started in 1917. That pandemic went on for 3 years. Most pandemics have 3 phases. You have an initial phase, what we're going through now, or phase 1. Then you have the big phase, which will be phase 2, which is going to be 50% more of what you're seeing today. There are going to be 50% more people that are infected, 50% more people are going to die. And then you get off through that phase 2, you get into what we call the third phase. And that's affecting the other part of the population that has not been exposed. Then eventually the virus is going to go through everybody. 100% everybody on this planet is going to be infected with COVID-19. That's a fact. The question would be, how bad are your symptoms? How bad was your viral load? Did you do a great precaution so you're not getting, somebody coughs and they cough directly in your face versus having your mask? Maybe you have a less viral load, and then over time, your body's going to get maybe some immunity to it. But that's the reality. So this is going to go on for 3 years.
Wow. And so you're saying to me, you're confident that 100% of humanity, of people, are going to end up with this COVID-19.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what Sweden. If your audience, and one thing I'm going to tell you, my information, you might not like me, you might not like my skin color, you might not like the way I talk to you, but I can tell you one thing: you're not going to be able to argue with me on anything to deal with science or medicine. You must forget that one. Because I'm going to tell you things that I've experienced in my career based off of experience and what the science tells us. And so, for example, in Sweden, they did a concept called herd immunity. What is herd immunity? What are we doing self-quarantine for? What are we doing social distancing? Only thing we're doing, folks, is we're slowing down herd immunity. Herd immunity means when an initial infection occurs in a population, 65 to 75% of the people get infected automatically. Then what happens is that they build up immunity, and then they affect the other 25%. The first 75% are able to go back to work, go back to school, etc. And then the other 25% of the people get infected. Then you have 100% of the population is infected. But the drawback to doing that and just letting everybody be infected is what's happened in Sweden too. Death rates are high. People, I don't want to take the chance on getting infected and possibly dying with this disease. Just like you said, you want to live for another 40, 50 years.
Yes.
So this is a concept behind that. So we're all are going to eventually get COVID-19, like we all eventually we get the flu. That's just that's science. That's epidemiology. That's not the Disney Channel. This is not a Subway sandwich. This is not a feel good. This is just fact.
So then I guess by the time everybody gets it, the hope is that there is what's the word?
A vaccination treatment.
Yes, is that what the hope is?
Well, that's what they hope, and that's what they're gambling on. That's what they tell people to feel good about it. But if you sit down as a scientist, you say, okay, guys, let's keep it real. This thing's already mutated to 40 different mutations. What is your vaccination based off? Well, we got the strain from a week ago when there was 33 mutations. So you go and make a vaccine that has the 33 mutations from a week ago, and now you got 7 new ones. And you didn't put that in your shot. So you give everybody the vaccination, it doesn't cover all the different strains, you're going to be sick. Doesn't work. That's the same concept with influenza. This is basic genetics, RNA, science based on the reality of what you're dealing with, and not, it's going to work. Let's talk about the medication. Using malaria medication. Let's talk about Z-Packs. Hell, you can talk about drinking Clorox. That does not work as a treatment. We can treat the symptoms. Fauci has said this. NIH has said this. This new drug called remdesivir is an HIV medication. They're hoping it's supposed to block this and they block that, the transmission of diseases. But you ask everybody in my business, is it a radical cure or a clinical cure? It's not a radical cure. It's not eliminating all the viruses from your body. It might do something, but when somebody tells me you have a radical cure drug, then I will support it 100%. Then that tells me that that drug is getting rid of all the viruses out of the body, in the testicles, in the humerus, in the eyeball, viruses in your brain, because viruses love to hang out. So that drug has to be 100% effective. Or vaccination has to be 100% 100% effective too.
Okay. So does the president, number 45, does he and Pence know something that we don't know? Because I see they keep walking in groups, shaking hands, wearing no mask. So do they know something? Or do they have something we don't have?
No, they don't have anything that you don't have. And like my mother say, that they fart just like everybody else. They're human beings too.
Okay.
So they ain't immune to this thingy, and that's just a reality. And that's more of an image thing. The press secretary has been sick, and it's like Boris Johnson in UK. He was talking all that. This ain't real, and this is fake, and his butt ended up almost dying in England. This is the Prime Minister of the UK. So it tells you that people have taken their political views and they put it into the world of science and medicine, and it's became ugly. Just like healthcare disparities. You mentioned a black boy being shot down in Georgia. Well, them white people already had them beliefs. They didn't give a damn about black people day one. Right. And they damn sure don't give a care about black people now when they're running around in their Ku Klux Klan uniforms. So what makes them different? So this stuff about, we should all get along and we're all in this together. No, there are certain groups that are getting it together. And my job is to try to be the mediator and give everybody the best information in the world, black, white, whoever it is, because that's my compassion. That's what God made me to do, was to take care of the people, and that's the reality. But I have to also make sure that my people see that there are people like me that are black and speak their language, and I can talk about collard greens and cornbread and peach cobbler and buffalo fish, and we can get it going on.
And some sweet tea, yes sir.
And some sweet tea, so we can relate. So I'm in the flesh. I'm a human being, and I'm here to. This is what I've been doing, push-ups for 30 years. To this moment is my moment to make sure that I save as many people I can. Through people like you that say, I got to have my Dr. Rowland tell me the real deal.
I'm on the real deal.
Doc, we got to go. We're at the end of the program. Before you go, tell us the 5 things you're doing from a health perspective to save yourself from the second wave. Since everybody's going to get it, give them the Dr. Rowland's health deal that you're doing to take care of you, so that those of us who are listening,
And take care of ourselves.
we're going to take care of ourselves based upon some of the things you're telling us.
Well, sometimes in life, you have to go with the source. And I've been in infectious diseases for 30-something years. And we talked about this before.
Right.
And, it shocks the hell out of people because people can't believe that a Black man like me has the experience I have and being certified in biological and chemical management of warfare patients, dealing with patients that have dengue, malaria, and HIV, and all these multi-drug resistant tuberculosis and HIV and Zika, chicken. I can go on to diseases. And the reason why I haven't been infected because I use great biosecurity protocols in my life. My family uses them. I know situational awareness. 1, I know diseases that can be transmitted by hand. So I wash my hands sometimes 20 to 30 times a day. I don't use soap and water. Everybody in my house and my people in the hospital, we use Hibiclens. That's what we use to wash and sterilize our hands with. It's the best on the planet. You can't argue with the science. 2, I make sure if I'm going to Walmart to get a pizza or whatever, I wear a mask because I'm going to be in a high density area. 3, we make sure that we don't wear our shoes in the house. I don't care if you're President Obama. I'm going to tell you, take your shoes off or you ain't coming up in my place. 4, you got to make sure you have a good surface disinfectant. And the best surface disinfectant I use is called Extreme Surface Disinfectant. The same company that makes the full body decon. The chemicals that we use is the same thing we spray on our bottom of our shoes in my house. And the 5th thing is that you make sure that our bathrooms are clean on a regular basis, because we know that 25 to 35% of transmission is through feces. So our door handles are wiped down in our car. Our bathrooms are wiped down. If I'm in public, if I don't have gloves, I make sure I have the surface disinfector or alcohol to make sure I decontaminate or disinfect everything. And these are the basic policies that I have. And then we also have in our house, we have air filtration unit, because I also know that the virus is airborne. Right. And that's just the bottom line. So these are the things I protect, because my mom's 76 years old. I love my mother.
Right.
And so my responsibility is I'm gonna make sure my mom go another 30 years.
Absolutely.
And I'm her baby. I have the information, and I'm gonna share the information because of my experience, not based off a book. My experience is based off the experience in the field, and then also the book knowledge.
Right. But Doug, we appreciate you promise to come back.
Man, if you guys want me to come back, let me tell you something, man. Somebody gonna get hurt up in Albany, and don't be talking about Dr. Rowland. I'm looking for grits, and you guys are giving me cream of wheat.
Yes, sir. You can have grits. You can have some fish,
fried fish, yes sir,
and some sweet tea,
all of it.
Yes,
whatever you want.
Hey, you forgot the most important thing. So see, when I'm getting some sugar from my honey, I got to have some peach cobbler.
Okay.
Listen, we love you, and we thank you for sharing your
doctor. We do,
and we want you to come back.
Hey, if you need me to come back, that is my duty from God to do that for you guys. If you want the most current information, you contact me and I'll be there to tell people what's up. If you don't want the real information, go ahead and watch CNN and Fox. You're going to find out what's going to happen.
Lord Jesus. Listen, I want to give a shout out to the seniors. What's the lady name with the seniors in Albany? What's the name of the program?
Dr. T, Miss T.
Miss T.
We love you, Miss T.
We love you, Miss T. Love you, all the seniors. Listen, Lee State Prison, Archer State Prison.
Our county jail here.
Y'all stay strong, man.
Stay
love
strong.
you. Love you, Doc. Love you, Doc.
Take care, guys. Take care. Bye. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
WZBN, Camilla Pelham.
Playing the best praise and worship music.
Albany's gospel leader. Praise